rat under there?
Mics are on.
All right. Ooh, nice and loud. Welcome, everyone. I hereby call the Monday, September 11th, 2023 Cumberland Town Council meeting to order. First up on the agenda is the approval of minutes from August 28th Cumberland Town Council.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Brenda
All-
did a fabulous job with them.
All 13 pages.
All those in favor? Unanimous. All right, next item on the agenda is our manager's report. Over to you, Mr. Shane.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of items of interest. We have basically all the gravel paved now at Town Hall, so the minefield that people had to use to get through here has ended. The end of the month, we expect to be paving the entire surface, so it really looks like we're probably going to have to close on Thursday and Friday. Honestly, with the tack that goes down onto the surface and getting that tracked into the building, it would be an absolute mess, and people would be not sure where to go. It'd be safer for the public and safer for the building if we basically close the offices. The problem with that is I'm not going to do it in advance because it's all weather dependent. Our track record with rain has not been great this summer. If we get a rain day on a Thursday or Friday, it just pushes it out another week. So that's what we're looking for. We're hoping and praying for good weather that Thursday and Friday, and if that works, then it'll be complete those 2 days and we'll be ready for business on Monday. We also will have a conflict with the farmers market because if it's paved on Friday, we're going to try to pave the front on Thursday and the back on Friday, so perhaps we can get them on Saturday, but it's, again, weather dependent. If it is a very hot day, we're going to have pock marks all over that pavement, and I'd rather have a cure for the weekend, and we may try to help them relocate to another facility, either to most likely try to get them at one of the schools if that's possible. But again, weather dependent, so I don't want to pull the trigger until we get a better idea of the forecast. And since, let's say, March, I don't know if we've had 5 consecutive days without rain, so it's hard to say where we're going to be, but just wanted to let people know. Not this Friday, but a week from Friday, the curbing is going back in place throughout the building. That'll pretty much happen on Friday morning, and they'll be done in a few hours. And then following that up will be the paving we said for those 2 days, and keeping our fingers crossed that all goes well. The request for proposals for the affordable housing project, I've been waiting for our attorney's opinion related to the Drown Road property. As you know, everything we have on this parcel, which is over 100 acres, was gifted by Elizabeth Drown many years ago. And since the gift, we have built a landfill, a school, a town hall, baseball fields, now senior housing. And I just wanted to make sure they were up to speed, so in case we saw any legal action, they were prepared. They have dusted off lawsuits that Ken Cole basically tried for the town all the way to the law court. I think it was back in the 50s or early 60s. So they feel confident we're in good shape to move forward. And therefore, tomorrow online will be posted the RFP and all the supporting documents. We'll be sending out notices to the developers that I listed in the email, but adding Kevin Bunker Developers Collaborative to that as well. All those people were before you over the last several years, and you've had questions for all of them, and I'm hopeful that we get 3 or 4 proposals back. Those will be due, I think, in early November, so the process will begin shortly after that. Whitney will have that posted on the town website and kind of pinned to that banner of events that you often see at the beginning of the first page on our website. And construction on Main Street continues. It's definitely the Lifetime Achievement Award. It's still going, but it's difficult with supplies, and it's just a slow project. We hope to have most of the surface on up to the cemetery, and then once the granite curb comes in October, we'll be scheduling around the busing and the school, start of school to get around the corner. As you can tell, right at the corner of Main and Tuttle, it's a really busy intersection until really 9 o'clock in the morning. And even the rest of the day, the traffic is picked up there as well. So it's a little challenging with traffic. Typically, they'll have to monitor all 4 legs. If you remember, if you went through there when they were taking those large trees down at the cemetery, they had 4 flaggers. They shut off the traffic signals, and that worked pretty well. But we didn't have school buses, so it worked great. They'll probably have to do something similar until they can get around the corner and a little bit away from the intersection. So that won't probably start until October or November. That's pending the curb delivery, and if that is delayed, it may have to happen in the spring. So we'll see. If it happens in the spring, we might be able to schedule around a school vacation and just try to minimize the impact with traffic. So more to come, and I'll keep you posted on that. Paving is paving, and as I said earlier, it's all scheduled to weather. We have 3 roads left. Mere Wind off of Greeley Road, and 2 roads on the Forest side that are scheduled to be paved. It's not that they've been forgotten, it's just trying to get the crews in here to, in between raindrops has been challenging. So we're intending to pave that this fall, and then Main Street also is scheduled to be overlaid from Tuttle to Greeley Road. So all of that, pending good weather, if we get a good month of end of September and early October, will be paved and put to bed for the season. Any other questions I can help you with related to construction, jump in, or anything else?
You mentioned the trees that were taken down to the cemetery. Those aren't the only ones that have come down in recent years. There's been a few others. I'm just curious, is there some plans to plant some trees?
Not with this project. There certainly could be in the future. I think that kind of plays into more on the LCC side. They're looking to perhaps look at the Tree City program that's out there that many of our communities around us participate in with the annual tree planting program and more stewardship on street trees. We haven't done anything organized like that in a while, although we've planted trees in many places. It's not really evident as far as street trees. The cemetery has no plans to replant anything right there, especially in the Congregational Cemetery. As you can
I'd like to
imagine-
see something, Bill. I don't know, what the room is between the stones and stuff like that, but I think that's a pretty significant loss, and it's pretty open, and so if there's an opportunity for us to plant maybe 3 trees,
I'll be happy to talk to Robert Story and just talk to him. We used to basically look at those. I think you can see by the damage the pine trees have caused in the Mosside Cemetery. We're afraid to damage the stones, and those pines were not the best trees to keep. The hardwood trees, however, I think add a lot of character to the cemetery. They really look great in the fall. Let me talk to Robert and see if he has some ideas. I'd rather, he's the expert, and he knows what works and what doesn't work, and I'll get back to you on that. There is one final thing that I forgot to mention. A couple meetings ago, Councilor Douglas asked us about the outstanding taxes and would a 4% assessment on the interest and penalties be enough instead of what the 9% that Maine Municipal had recommended. We're in much better shape than I even imagined. We have about $250,000 in outstanding taxes that go back all the way to 2005. The bulk of that is in 2022 and 2023, which hasn't gone to foreclosure yet. So typically when those go to foreclosure, they get down to about 20 or 30,000. Right now they're at, I think 23 is about 140 or 150,000. 22 is around 60,000 or 70,000. Those drop significantly. When you go back to 21, it's down to 19,000. So they drop off quickly, and the bulk of that, 200,000, is basically wrapped up in the last 2 fiscal years. So that is not not unusual, and they seem to drop off quickly when we get to foreclosure. So the answer is yes, we're okay, and we believe we're gonna be fine. But the interesting thing about that was something that myself, the finance director, and the deputy tax collector came across, is that the council should consider, perhaps in the spring, with the advice of the town attorney, basically clearing the books back to pick a date, whether it's 2015 or 14, but clear all the, you know, the $95 and the $47, and we've got very, very small amounts that go back all the way to 2005. Some of those are even tied to Shabig Island days. So when we do some housekeeping, when you appoint a new manager next spring, I think one of the items would be to transfer the power over to a new treasurer, and part of that would be to say, you know, we're going to start with a clean slate. And we can go through with the Finance Committee all those details, but just keep it on your radar. It's a good idea. I think we did it when I first started in 2003, and I think it's good practice to do probably every 5 to 10 years, just so that you kind of wipe out some of the stuff that we would deem uncollectible. So it's just not hanging out there. But it was a good exercise, and thank you, Councilor Douglas. I wasn't sure how that was going to work, but it actually worked out very well. So that's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thanks so much, Bill. And we will all cross our fingers for some dry days ahead so we can finish
Thank
these
you.
projects. September is supposed to have statistically the least amount of rainfall of any month in Maine, yes, but tonight's not really cooperating with
Or
that.
like the last 4 nights.
What's happening? All right, next up is public discussion. Public discussion is for comments on items that are not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per person, and rebuttals will be limited to 2 minutes. Public discussion topics may also be brought back up during new business for further council discussion. Is there anyone in the audience that has anything to say this evening? Sure, please. If you wouldn't mind just popping right up, talk into the mic if you can, and just please state your name and where you live.
Heather Gadu, I'm in Cumberland on Cary Drive. Tonight I'm wearing my hat as the head of Foundation 51. Foundation 51 is a nonprofit in our school district that is best known for awarding grants to enrich student learning. We also fund innovative ideas in teaching and learning, as well as discreetly working behind the scenes through our Student Assistant Committee. We're also known for our very fun fall flings, and that's why I'm here tonight. To that end, we'd like to share with all of you that tickets are now available for our fall fling. The fall fling is Friday, September 29th from 6:30 to 9:30 at Skyline Farm. You can get your tickets either by going to www.foundation51.org, or if you see any of the posters around town, there's a few here in Town Hall, they have QR codes that will take you right there, and you can do tickets or donations. And as I mentioned above, all of the proceeds that we earn from this really fun event do go to all of the above mentioned 3 parts of our mission. We hope to see you there, and also I just want to say thank you to the 2 Jens out front. I've never been in here to navigate this, and they were so kind and helpful, so you guys have a really nice crew. Thank you.
Thanks, Heather.
Don't leave yet. I'd like to make a comment. if I may.
Please.
Just not a criticism, but a suggestion. There's 1, 2, 3. There's 4 Greeley grads sitting up here, and there's also everybody up here either has or has had children in the system. And I served 15 years on the school board, and I always got a notice of Foundation 51's event. But the minute that I got off the school board and my children graduated, the communication stopped. So my suggestion to you is that, just because you have people who no longer have kids in the system doesn't mean that we're not willing to support or be involved with the schools. So and I've mentioned this to other chairs in the past, but keep in mind that those of us who have been or have had children, who have children, keep us informed.
Yeah, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vale. That's actually one of the reasons why we're here tonight, is so we can reach a broader audience beyond what the schools can give us for emails or anything along those lines. We do have a Heritage Fund where we are actively trying to recruit people who have been involved with the community, and I'd love to hear if you have another way of how I could reach, or we could do some outreach to get information out to those people, because to have people to enrich our community through the school and through Foundation 51 is definitely part of our mission, and I really appreciate that you brought that to my attention. Thank you.
Well done. All right, any other folks would like to come up? Oh, okay, we're hot to trot. All right, moving right along to legislation and policy. Item 23-099, to hold a public hearing to consider and act on a mass gathering permit for Fiesta Show's main celebration of lights to be held from November 24th to January 2nd at the Cumberland Fairgrounds. And Mr. Shane, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the third year that the third year, okay.
That's correct.
Great. Looks like all of their paperwork is in order. Any discussion from the council?
When you're ready, Madam Chair, I'll give you a motion.
Second.
Okay, I'll take a motion.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the mass gathering permit for the Fiesta Show's main celebration of lights to be held November 24th to January 2nd at the Cumberland Fairgrounds.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in, ooh,
I just want to say
Please.
that when this first came, I opposed it because it's a for-profit organization. But they are actually paying the Farmers Club that I support, so I'm in favor of that. Plus, I also heard some really positive reactions from families who didn't want to drive all the way to the Botanical Gardens in Booth Bay and walk around, that this was something they could drive through with their families, keep their toddlers in the car, buckled in, safe and warm. So I'm happy to say I was wrong on my first vote, and I'm happy to support this now moving forward.
plus there are fried Oreos. So according to their packet, fried Oreos and hot cocoa, which could get me anywhere. All right, we have a motion and a second.
Public hearing.
Public, it is oh, thank you. It is a public hearing. Would anyone like to make any comments about the fried Oreos or this mass gathering permit in general?
I do know from last year's questions that these are LED lights, so they're,
Energy efficient.
we did ask, they're more efficient than,
Even better. All right, motion and a second. All those in favor? Unanimous. All right, moving on to item 23-100, to hold a public hearing to consider and act on a mass gathering permit for the Maine Principals Association Boys and Girls Class A, B, and C South Regional Cross Country Championships to be held at Twin Brook on October 21st from 9 to 3:30. And I won't even guess how many years they've been doing this. It's quite
Over
some time.
20.
Over 20. Okay.
The big thing about this is that it has been over 2 decades. The parking is at the school, which has a lot less stress on the facility at Twin Brooks, which is huge. I think the only thing on site is handicap parking and any emergency vehicles that we have. We are waiting for the updated insurance certificate. That's the only piece missing in the application right now. We're expecting that any day. I think Jen did a nice job outlining, Jen and Pete worked together on outlining that summary sheet for you, so it kind of gives you a flavor. Pete Bingham has done a great job in organizing this, in splitting the different classes so that they're not all descending upon Twin Brooks at the same time. It gives parents and spectators a better feel, so it's not, everybody jockeying for position. I think they've done a great job with managing the parking. The SAD works directly with the Maine Principals Association on that. This is the impact to Twin Brook, and you can see the fees in there are to the facility fee of $500, the mass gathering permit of $250, and they're also paying for our park staff. We have 3 people that'll be there for 8 hours. So they are covering our cost, and they are basically enlisting the SAD for what I would say is probably the biggest impact is usually parking. And since it's up at the schools, it's a lot easier to manage for us, especially with the rain we've had this fall.
Great. Any discussion? This is a public hearing. Oh, yes, Mr. Kopp.
Any food trucks allowed at this event?
There will be no food trucks this time. There is a booster club that will be, I'm looking at this, I'm finding.
Really
is it
basketball.
Basketball.
The basketball team will be doing the concessions, and so all is well.
Good.
Any folks from the public like to comment on this mass gathering permit? All right, any further council discussion? I would take a motion. Mr. Vale.
I move to approve the mass gathering permit for the Maine Principals Association Boys and Girls Class A, B, and C South Regional Cross Country Championships to be held at Twin Brook on October 21st from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. All right, moving right along. 23-101 to adopt a new council policy for Twin Brook Recreation Area regarding endangered bird nesting. Going into this item, we are still kind of having some dialogues with the LCC as well as with the forestry subcommittee, and we expect to kind of finalize some of those dialogues around the language in the next couple of weeks or so. So that said, tabling this issue until we have kind of that language nailed down. It would be a motion to entertain if,
So just a reminder, once you go into a tabling motion and seconding, we have to end discussion. So you do have members from the LCC here that might want to add something that the council might want to ask, but totally up to you. We're trying to follow the rules correctly this time instead of allowing you to continue the discussion after a tabling motion.
so it's a rainy night and we have 2 folks from the LCC here, so if either of you want to jump in, come on up.
You're all set, Mike? Okay. I didn't want to dismiss that since I saw Mike and Ellen here, so.
Oh, well done.
I
Yeah.
move to table.
Oh, you jumped in there. I had something to say.
Oh, gosh.
Nobody seconded it yet.
I'll
Yeah.
second it.
Oh, my God.
Third.
All right, all right.
Oh, you lost.
Sorry, Bob.
We go right to a vote.
That's
We have a
good.
motion and a second. All those in favor?
Be under
Let's
new
not
business.
forget to
Unanimous.
untable it next time.
I saved you, Mike.
All
Oh,
right.
That's good, that's good.
All right, moving on to new business. I'll start down at the left with Counselor Kopp.
Everybody noticed that Brenda Moore is not here tonight. I would like to wish her a very happy birthday. Her husband spilled the beans. He was at my shop a couple of weeks ago, and he told me that when her birthday was and what age she was turning, which I won't go into details, but happy birthday, Brenda, and have a good time, so.
And she'll be at the Keith Urban Concert Wednesday night in Nashville.
No kidding, good for her. And I just want to make a comment. I noticed coming in tonight that Mike, outside the door out front, there is a piece of,
Amazing.
don't let me get it wrong.
Keep going. Is it bittersweet?
It's-
Is it bittersweet?
Is it bittersweet? It's not knotweed, it's bittersweet, correct?
Yeah.
And I think that's great, because everybody can see just what that does to a tree. It actually, I wish we could, it might even have Whitney take a picture of that and put it on the town website, because it's very impressive. I mean, and I've learned a lot in the last 6 months on invasive species, and I just think that that's great, because everybody comes in here, can actually see what it does.
I told Mike the same thing, Rod.
It's a great example. I mean, I think if we could take a picture and put it on the town website, it would make people say, oh my God. you know.
It's in the lobby usually during the day. It kind of creeps its way in like that Progressive Auto commercial.
Yeah, and that's all I
Be
have,
taking
Madam
over the
Chair.
building
Yeah.
soon.
It is scary.
Oh, and I will donate my $20 to the 4-H food pantry, which is, the Cumberland Fair is in 2 weeks, and I intend to be there to bid on some animals. I won't bid against the manager, so.
Thank you, thank you.
Oh, so, talking about species, every Sunday I take the dogs for a hike out in the town forest, and yesterday we didn't get our morning hike, so we took our afternoon hike, and as I was making the loop there, something spotted up in the tree, and I said, there's something up there. And I'm reaching into my pocket to get my phone out, and anyways, it was a gray owl, about 1.5 feet tall.
No kidding.
Just a magnificent bird. He didn't stay long enough for me to photograph him, but I have noticed there is a fair amount of wildlife out there, and to see that owl there was an indication that there's habitat for him to survive, and I think he was thriving.
I thought you were gonna say you took your phone, but
Couldn't find the gun.
I was thinking that's where it was going. Nothing on my end. Mike. Over to you, Mike.
Just got a couple of things. Bill, if you would give my compliments to Chris Bolduc. They paved my street, and of course I'm getting a lot of, nice that the town paved the town council's street, but it's been 36, 37 years.
It wouldn't have made it through the winter, Mike.
No. Happy birthday, Brenda, of course. I wanted to recognize the passing of Randy Plummer. And Randy, I've known he and his family for 40 years, and his son, Nick, who works in the town, and my son, Ryan, started at Mary Beth Grover's daycare all the way up through, and Randy was a super guy. I know Bobby was involved with the Lions Club. Just gave back a lot to the community. I understand, Bill, that was a member guest this past weekend?
Labor Day weekend, right?
Labor Day, yeah, that they did a really nice dedication to Randy, and
Tony Polito did, yeah.
yeah, he will be sadly missed. Way too young, I think he's 62. It's a tough loss for the community. And finally, I want to recognize the passing of somebody else, and Jimmy Buffett. I had the chance to be a Parrot Head a couple times, and his music, what I loved about Jimmy Buffett was never got really involved in politics. He just came out and entertained, and people from all over walks of life, really. And so, and I never involved national stuff here, but he was the best. That's all I have.
Do you want to sing us a couple lines?
No, absolutely.
Are you
You don't want to hear
sure?
this.
I'm available.
Go ahead.
No.
Counselor Story King.
I'd like to acknowledge also, send out my condolences to Nick and Christian on the loss of their dad, Randy. He always had a smile
Sure
and a
did.
friendly greeting for everybody. You know, I knew him since college. He was, I think, in the same year. His birthday's the day after mine. And you would think we were long-lost best friends whenever, but he was that way to everybody. Just a stand-up guy. I'd also like to take a moment to remember 9/11 and use the opportunity to thank our first responders and public safety people. They give of themselves every day, and I don't know why it's been on my mind this year more than ever, but it's an important date to remember. I guess the fact that none of our kids in school would ever have reason to remember that day, and it's so vivid in my mind that I guess that's why I'm thinking about it. I'd like to encourage everybody to get the library newsletter if you don't get it already. They have great programs going on at the library, and not all their programs are at the library. There's amazing collaboration in our community between the Recreation Department, the library, the Land Trust, the Historical Society. West Custago in North Yarmouth has been hosting a bunch of library events. So if you want to stay on top of what's going on at the library, sign up for their newsletter. It's really, really well done. I learned today about a Maine Affordable Housing Conference in October. October 4th. I sent information to you all this afternoon. I think it might be a good idea if maybe a couple of town councilors went. So I just kind of threw that out there. I'd like to congratulate Megan Grover, and Ben Story. People who know the families know that they've been longtime competitors, but Ben and Megan got married this weekend, and Megan's dad, Ben Grover, actually drove the old Story Brothers truck, the one that belonged to Uncle Don, to bring Megan in. I kind of joked with him after, and I said, Ben, is that the first time you've driven a Story Brothers truck? Because all the Story Brothers worked for Al Grover, like when they were starting out. And Ben was just typical serious Ben. So, that's a nice truck. Jeez, that's all he could say. He was like, he didn't sort of. Anyway, it only surpasses last summer, Ron, when a Story married a cop.
Yeah. Now we're all related.
I know, kind of scary. And then finally, I'd like to wish good luck to Greeley football. They're playing Thursday night at 8 o'clock, not Friday, in honor of Rosh Hashanah. And they are looking for their second win of the season. It's their first home game, and they will be playing Brunswick. And that's all I have.
All right. I have a couple of things. We had a Lansing Conservation meeting last Wednesday, and since you mentioned your owl, I mean, I was going to bring this up anyway, but the Forestry Subcommittee is inviting us to do a walkthrough at the town forest on October 7th at 7:30 a.m. We're going to look at the different areas being remediated for invasives on that property and how kind of that work within the town forest is different from some of the other work that's planned on the other forests within town. So we'll fire over those dates and get an RSVP going. But I think the one that we had, the walk we had around Twin Brook was super eye-opening, to say the least. So hopefully that's something that we can all do.
That was the 7th?
This
At-
October 7th at 7:30 a.m. I'll buy you a coffee.
Okay.
I'll buy everyone coffee beforehand. So one of the other really exciting initiatives from the LCC is the new community orchard. And Jesse, who is taking the kind of the driving force behind this, is looking for volunteers. Just a reminder for folks, the community orchard is being developed by the Salt Shed on Stiles Way. What they're looking for the fall is if the rain ever stops and the area kind of dries out enough to get mowed, the plan is to identify any kind of wetland areas, plonk down stakes in the ground, and possibly do some sheet mulching site prep for the spring. So if anyone is interested in getting involved, you can reach out, if you go over to the town website, it's, I think, lcc@cumberlandmaine.com. Don't quote me on that. Go to the town website and grab the email from there, but definitely reach out. And then Shirley, I know you're not the council liaison, but I got really excited for you at this meeting because Penny Asherman was there. And she was taking us through the land trust trialing for invasive control of invasives on Stockman Island with the goats. And so they have they used two female dwarf mixed breed goats named Sequoia and Mog. And the takeaway is that kind of goats, unfortunately, will, if they're allowed to roam free, they'll end up prioritizing their favorite treats over the poison ivy, which is what they were there for. So maybe precision fencing is a must. But I'd encourage everyone to take a peek at that story in the CCLT newsletter from Jonathan Dawson. He did a great job. And who knows, maybe goats will be our answer at some point. Fingers crossed. And that's it from me. At this point, we'll be moving into executive session pursuant to Title 36 MRSA, Section 841-2, to consider and act on an application for tax abatement based on hardship. entertain a motion if there, all
Motion?
Second.
right. All those in favor? Unanimous.
Okay, we just close the door.